Hey folks, and welcome back. Just going to have a short little video today as, I said that I was going to let you know how my angle grinder worked out and possibly demonstrate its use while trimming. Well, I didn't want to bore you watching me trim horses because, I got a few to do and that would have made a very long video. But we did use the angle grinder. We finally did use it. Actually, it only works on 3 out of 4, though. One of them is still got an issue with it. Oddly enough, it's the one I thought would have no problem at all with it. Just goes to show you never know. But it was also a bit of an educational, it was educational in that respect, too, that 3 of the 4 were actually no problem with it. Well, they were a little concerned about it at first, but once we introduced it to them properly, they were all right with it. And, this goes back to what I've said before about being patient. Take your time, be patient, and eventually you'll achieve the goal you want. Well, I'm up to 75% now. I got 3/4 of them accepting this thing. Still got one to work on. It could be a challenge. That's okay. We'll get to it. But it was also educational in a few other respects, too, because I learned a little bit from using this thing. Well, now we know how long the battery lasts. It is currently dead. So we have to limit how many hooves we can do with this thing. Either that or get a bigger battery. But considering the price of batteries, I think if I stick to just doing one horse at a time, it'll be just fine. And we can always charge it up in between if we want to do more than one horse in a day. Something else we learned was a grinding disc on a hoof does not smell very nice. Nasty smell. I also learned something quite useful. Other than that, that's not really useful. It's just one of those things you're going to have to live with. But the disc itself, we actually bought 2 different discs for it because we didn't know what grit we were going to need. And, even now, we're not completely sure. This one here is a 120 grit. Definitely too fine. Doesn't take material off fast enough. So we are going to switch to the other disc we got, which is a 80 grit. I don't know if they actually make them any coarser than that for this particular size of grinder, at least not in a flap disc style. Maybe in a regular one, but they aren't as good in a lot of ways. They tend to get snagged and tear apart and go flying, and they're much cheaper, but they don't last as long. And there actually are discs made specifically for doing horses' hooves. I haven't looked at them, priced them out. I figured we'd just start with this because lots of guys are using these. So I thought, we'll try that. They're readily available. I don't have to order it in or anything like that. So just a bit of advice, though. The 120, definitely too fine. Won't take enough material off. Although I didn't want something that was overly aggressive to start with until I got the hang of using this on hooves and made sure the horses were okay with it, which they are. And actually, it works quite nice. It's very easy to use. A lot less work than a rasp, I'm telling you. I had that suspicion when I first investigated it. And apparently there are people still using, they actually started using the angle grinder to trim hooves. Is nothing new. And they started doing it long before the cordless ones existed. And even today, guys are still using grinders with cords on them to trim horses. Well, I expect they're working in places that have readily available power because in here there are no plug-ins. All of my equipment for my camera and everything, it's all cordless. The only thing that isn't is I have some additional lighting I use sometimes, and for that I have to run a fairly lengthy extension cord for, and running a cord while trying to trim horses, it doesn't sound like a good idea to me. So that's why we went for the cordless variety, and it does work. Much easier than a rasp, and at the moment, we still have to start off with the nippers because we just started using this thing. So the hooves are fairly long yet, and actually some of them are probably borderline overdue. And so we still have to start off with a nipper, but this has replaced the rasp. And eventually, if we use it often enough, it's going to replace the nippers as well, because it is so easy to use that there would be no reason not to address the hooves on a regular basis. And if we do it often enough, we're never going to need to use the nippers, which is kind of my goal. Now, I suspect that I'm not going to throw them out or sell them or give them away or nothing. I do suspect that there is going to be the occasion where we might have to use them. Well, maybe not on these ones, but maybe on another horse. But so we're going to keep them around. But as for these four, well, so far, 3 out of 4. No problem at all. And, yeah, they're not 100% with it yet, but they will let me use it on them. Time, patience, you get there. Have a good day.